Craft fairs. There seems to be a lot of them happening in the fall, probably because the big holidays are approaching. But what sells at a craft fair? Hey everybody, it's me, Margaret. I am a Mississippi native transplanted to Atlanta, Georgia, where I sheepishly share things I love with you. And today we're talking craft fairs. Why? Because most people who watch my channel know that I don't sell at craft fairs, but I do participate in one. I am going to show you some of the things that I am sending to Sister Margaret Mary for her fundraiser. I've talked about this at length in past videos, and I will fill you in on it if you would like to participate with the rest of us. It's helping considerably, but she's unable to produce the volume that she used to because she has an injury right now, and the music program depends upon what she can fundraise at the school craft fair thing. October 8th is going to be the deadline for sending it in, because I think it's the following week that the fair actually happens. So I will give you all the details in the description box below. I'll talk a little bit more about it at the end of this video, but let's get down to some items that we're selling, that I'm sending, that I hope will sell at her craft fair. Now please note, and this is huge, what sells at a craft fair happens to be directly related to your demographic. Who will be attending said craft fair? Keep in mind your audience, your customer base. Now in our case, we can only address the demographics that we know, like most craft fair patrons are women, and in this particular craft fair, it's a fundraiser for a school, and the customer base happens to be young families. So I'm thinking along those lines as I produce some of these things. Now this happens to be a key fob. It's made of a webbing. It has Mickey Mouse ribbons on it like that, and then you put your keys here, right there. Now of course this would be a great thing to put on a backpack, or luggage or anything like that as well. They're making a lot of noise. From what I understand, these types of things usually sell really well because they're unique. You can buy them in stores, but you can't buy this in stores exactly like this. And they generally are, you know, lower price type items that people can easily pick up and find a use for, because they're useful items, right? Now, I've got a little video. I'll show you exactly how I made these. Very simple. I cut my ribbon and webbing to 11 inches each, but this size isn't set in stone. It fits comfortably around my wrist as well as an elementary school age child. With thick items, my machine likes a walking foot, but it's not necessary. However, a heavier needle is. Could you glue this instead? I suppose, but you would need to make sure that it dries in its folded position, as not all glues are flexible. Note that you don't have to sew the ends because they're going to be encased in the hardware, but I found it easier just to keep the needle in the project and rotate around rather than cut the thread and begin again. This cotton webbing is 1 1/4 inches wide and can be found anywhere in lots of different colors. The ribbon I'm using here is grosgrain and it's 1 inch wide. The hardware is known specifically as key fob hardware. And see how it has little teeth inside to grip the webbing? I'll put a link in the description box where I purchased mine from Amazon. And by the way, my supplies were left over from a previous project I did a couple years ago, so it's nice to have a new use for them. I don't know what you call these flat, squared-off pliers, but you need something like this. They sell them with little silicone protectors on the ends to keep from scratching the hardware, but since I don't have that kind, I usually wrap a scrap of an old t-shirt around it. But for the purpose of this demo, I'll set that aside so you can see what's going on. Basically, you just insert the webbing and close the clamps. Do it gently and slowly so it bends evenly. And then add your keyring part. And you're finished. A previous recipient posted a picture of hers in use, and I noticed that I made them a bit smaller last time. It's really nice not to have to be exact with your measurements. Now, what do young families often have? Children. And before they have children, they're babies. They grow into children, right? So I made some baby bibs. Now, I thought this one was particularly adorable. It's a sweet little applique that you put on there. And again, tutorials abound on the internet. There's different types of appliques. You can, of course, do that satin stitch. And I tried my hand at it, and I found that this was the one that I could do. I didn't do the other one very well at all. And unfortunately, now my sewing machine is beginning to act up. So I'm going to have to put a halt to my sewing plans right now, because I have to take that machine in to get a checkup and see what's going on with it. I also used snaps for the first time, these type of snaps, not the sew-on snaps, the kind you have to kind of pound. I bought a heavy duty one, but then I made some lighter bibs, and this is another thing that's all the rage these days, are bandana bibs. And they come around like that, and it looks like you're wearing a little bandana under your neck. It's so cute. I'll try to find a baby picture and insert for you to see that. Now this one has terry cloth on the back, and basically what I bought was some inexpensive washcloths at Walmart. They were 4 for $1. They were 25 cents a piece for a washcloth. Now the problem was that the pattern, which looks like this shape right here, you couldn't fold the washcloth and put it on there like this and have it work. It just didn't fit. But I noticed that I could do it in 2 parts if I moved it around. Here you can see that I drew the seam allowance, but before I cut, I realized it was way bigger than what I really needed. I traced around the pattern with a fat, washable children's marker, and I noticed that the width was about 1/4 inch. Perfect! So by cutting outside the lines at that point alone, I gained an additional 1/4 inch for my seam allowance. Now you can see on the back it is seamed, but you really can't see, or you can barely even feel the seam right here. So it turned out really, really well, I thought. These are some plastic snaps that work very similarly to those other ones, but they're a little bit lighter. Now unfortunately, once you put well, maybe it is fortunately, once you put these things on, they don't come off. And unfortunately, I put this on wrong. See, I put both sides like this, and so you'd have to snap it like this instead of like this. So I messed this up, and you can't get it off. To fix it, you would have to cut it off. But I have some more. This one is a little bit bigger because the pattern comes in 2 sizes, and I did, fortunately, make that snap work correctly. And then I made some without terry cloth on the back. Now these are great for drooler bibs. This is a thing, if you've never had children before and you don't know, babies, when they start teething, some are worse than others. And sometimes they just drool like crazy and their little shirts get wet. And so you need something cute for them to wear so that keeps their shirts dry and they're not sitting there in wet clothes all the time. This is basically just 2 pieces of cotton fabric with the snap that goes in the back like that. But I love these little bandana bibs. They're so cute. Of course, don't forget to search Pinterest or Ravelry. There are tons of crochet and knit bibs out there that are absolutely adorable. And I would suggest that you not use acrylic. Acrylic does not absorb any kind of liquid, and it's just not quite as practical as a natural fiber. Now, remembering that we are thinking about young families, and here's an old pattern that I have done before, and it is a little elf hat. It's called the Little Helper Elf Hat. It's by Charmed by You. I'll put the link in the description box below. Simple, simple little hat. I made one in red right here. I haven't put the palm on the top. And when I wash it, this of course will be much softer, so it'll hang over like that. If you need to see it on a little head, this is a little bit too big for this particular mannequin head, but cute, cute, cute. And I'm in the process of doing another one in green as I'm working on that one. But I would think that any type of character hat would be a really big seller too. So think of the topics right now, the movies that have recently been released, like those trolls. If you're talented at making any of those trolls with their wacky bright color hair and stuff like that, there's lots of different animal hats to consider. One of my favorite sites, crochet sites, is Repeat Crafter Me, and she does a lot of character hats, like this precious little dogs and bunnies and, you know, things like that. So those are always big hits with families too. Now another fun idea are pillowcases. Now I made a bunch of these for my daughter. I'm not sending any of these to Sister Margaret Mary because I've spent all my time making these for my daughter. But these are very simple. They're called magic pillowcases or burrito style pillowcases, and you could find tutorials on these all over the internet. However, I need to alert you to something because none of the videos that I watched or the blogs that I read taught you some things, gave you a heads up about some things you need to be aware of. One of the things was, what do you do if you have a directional print, as I do? And these, I want my books to be standing upright. Now because the way these things are made, it's made long like this and then you fold it. So you will have it upright in both sides. So that's okay, but you got to figure out how to put it on before you start that magic folding. So let me insert a little clip here to show you about that. In order to create the magic part of the magic pillowcase, we have to create a little roll like this by layering our fabric in a certain order. My favorite way is to put down the cuff, then the main part, then the trim. But before we just slap them down like that, check your fabric to see if it's a one-directional print. We don't want it to come out upside down. Now I was pretty sure that if I placed both pieces right side up with the direction facing the way I wanted it, that it would come out okay. But I didn't trust myself, so I made this practice piece, drawing arrows to secure and make sure it was right. And I was correct. So you place your cuff side down with the direction that you want, then you place the main fabric with the direction that you want, facing up, and then you put your last piece. So to reiterate, it's cuff down first, right side up, then your main fabric, right side up, then your trim, being careful to align all the raw edges at the top. Now as I watched all these tutorials, nobody said anything about what presser foot to use, and it looked like they were just using regular old presser feet. And they didn't say anything about the needle size to use either, but I'll tell you from my own experience. My machine requires that I, for the most part, sew on a light pressure here. I always sew on mine as the lightest, and that works. But in this case, where we had lots of layers, I needed to add my walking foot so that it would pull everything through at the same time. And another thing is that I broke a needle. I was using a regular cotton needle, the kind I would normally use for cotton, but there's just too many layers, and so one of my needles just broke. So I have switched this one to a 100/16, and it's done the trick very well. The problem occurs right here at the point where the cuff, trim, and main fabric are joined. There are as many as 10 layers of fabric that you have to go through when you're joining the side seams. And like I said, I broke a regular cotton weight needle, so you may want to consider going up. Now, if you're new to my channel and you don't know what I'm talking about, or maybe you've missed the past few videos where I have talked about it, Sister Margaret Mary is a longtime member of this sheepishly sharing community. I've met her in person and enjoy her company immensely. But besides being a nun, obviously, Sister Margaret Mary, she is a music teacher in Kentucky, and she has a very fabulous music program. Not to mention she does other things with these kids, like she has a crochet club, and now they've ventured into jewelry making and things like that. But all this she does by raising funds herself. Of course, you know, the school does provide something for the music program, but you know how it is with any of the arts programs in any of the schools. If the money is short, what's going to get cut first, right? So there's this big fundraiser they have at their school, a holiday fair of some sort, and Sister gets to keep the money she raises at her table by selling these crafts and stuff. Usually she has plenty because she herself is a very gifted crocheter, and I often forget to mention this, but she is visually impaired. And the reason I forget to mention it is because if you look at her work, it's way better than mine, and she's visually impaired. She has this special little technique where she holds a crochet hook against her body, and then she can use both her hands to feel what needs. It's pretty impressive, and she has something on her site where she demonstrates and actually teaches this technique. So that's kind of neat. But anyway, she has hurt her hand. She has an injury somehow on her hand that we're looking at surgery. It's pretty severe. She's dealing with pain pretty much 24/7. So she can't get done nearly the amount of things that she normally has at her craft fair. So she put out the SOS for me, and she said, can you ask if there'd be anybody out there that would be willing to help contribute to this worthy cause, which it is very worthy. Now, some people have already sent some things in, and she's very grateful. And I received this email this morning. She says, Dear Margaret, oh my goodness, people have been so kind in offering to assist me. The big problem is that I'm behind in writing thank you notes. Every time you make a video, please tell everyone that I appreciate all the support. I am praying for them. I have a lot going on since the beginning of the school year. I teach music pre-K to grade 8. 6 piano students, crochet club, ukulele club, 5 adult hammered dulcimer and mountain dulcimer students, and spending a day once a month at our nursing home giving musical experiences for our residents. I received a grant to purchase rhythm instruments, boom whackers, what's a boom whacker, and kids play handbell sets. Also, 9 mountain dulcimers are being donated. Isn't that incredible? And then she says, I knocked my left hand several times on Saturday. Ouch. It's very, I mean, when you're in pain 24/7, you certainly don't want to go around bumping it. Ah. But anyway, to make a long story short, you can see how many lives Sister is touching with her gifts. And she doesn't just rest on her laurels. She gets up and does more. She asks people donate, and it is just, it's growing, and she's making such a huge difference. So I've really wanted to help alleviate some of her disappointment of this injury, and give a shout out to anybody who would be willing to help her with a few things that she could put out on her table, and hopefully raise a few more funds to continue the good work that she's doing. So if you'd like to participate in that, here is the information of where to send your items. The deadline should be around October 8th, and that should give her enough time to receive the items and you know, be able to do whatever you have to do, package them or whatever, you know, to sell these things. And she would be greatly appreciative. And as usual, I'm always asking for your input because I learn far more from you guys than I ever could pay back with these videos. So write down in the comment section below, what do you think would be good craft fair items to sell at something where the demographic is young families? Your knowledge is invaluable. So put it down there, and everybody who's watching, glance down there and see what you can see. Also, don't forget the Facebook page. We have a very active Facebook group. Link in the description box below. We also have a Ravelry group up there. It never has really caught fire the same way the Facebook group has, but it is there. So share, learn from each other. You people are smart. Thanks for watching. Talk soon.